Welcome to today's video, where we delve into some of the most haunting and heart-wrenching 911 calls ever recorded. These calls are more than just distress signals. They're windows into moments of sheer terror and desperation. Each call we'll explore today is a chilling reminder of how quickly ordinary lives can be turned into scenes of unimaginable horror. From the desperate pleas of a teenager trapped in a vehicle to the chilling confessions of a serial killer and the heart-wrenching cries of a mother fighting for her life, these stories paint a vivid and unsettling picture of human vulnerability in the face of danger. Buckle up as we dive into these disturbing 911 calls and the tragic events they capture. Kyle Plush was a 16-year-old high school student who seemed to have his whole life ahead of him. On April 10th, 2018, what should have been a typical afternoon errand turned into a tragic and harrowing ordeal. The sun was shining brightly, and the weather was perfect, a far cry from the nightmare that was about to unfold. Kyle had been running a simple errand for his family. His father had asked him to retrieve a tennis racket from their minivan, a silver Honda Odyssey parked in their driveway. It was a task that Kyle had done countless times before, one that should have been straightforward and quick. However, on this day, something went terribly wrong. The minivan was equipped with a third-row seat that folded flat into the floor. It was a feature intended to maximize cargo space, but it also had a deadly flaw. This is how it went down. As Kyle reached into the back of the van to grab the racket, the power sliding door closed behind him. The design of the vehicle meant that if the third row seats were down and the door closed, it created a dangerous trap. Kyle found himself locked inside the minivan with no easy way to escape. Realizing he was trapped, Kyle's initial reaction was one of confusion. But as time passed, panic set in. He struggled to free himself from the confined space, his breathing becoming increasingly labored. In a desperate attempt to get help, Kyle called 911 at 3:14 p.m. His call was a haunting plea for assistance, with his voice trembling as he explained his dire situation. During the call, Kyle described how he was unable to breathe and how he was trapped in the van. He pleaded for someone to come and rescue him. The dispatcher on the other end tried to keep him calm and asked for details about his location. Despite the dispatcher's efforts, the urgency of Kyle's predicament was not fully grasped, leading to delays in the response. As Kyle's distress continued to escalate, his situation became even more desperate. He struggled to communicate his exact location and the severity of his condition. His voice, once clear and determined, grew weaker as he struggled to stay conscious. The dispatcher's attempts to understand Kyle's situation were marred by confusion and a lack of immediate action. By 3:35 p.m., with no sign of relief in sight, Kyle's father, growing frantic and increasingly worried, made his own call to 911. He reported that Kyle was missing and that the last place they had seen him was near the family van. His voice was filled with fear and urgency, underscoring the gravity of the situation. The following audio call captures the chilling moments of Kyle's desperate attempts to reach out for help. As you listen, you can hear the fear and desperation in his voice, reflecting the dire nature of his situation.
Hello, Cincinnati 911. This is the address of your emergency.
Help!
Cincinnati 911.
I'm stuck in my bed outside the 7 Hills Hotel parking lot.
The Seven Hills what parking lot?
Help! I need help.
Where are you? Hello?
I'm gonna die here.
Where are you?
I probably don't have much time left to tell my mom that I love her if I die. This is not a joke. This is not a joke. I'm trapped inside my gold Honda Odyssey van in the Southwood parking lot of Seven Hills Death. Send officers immediately. I'm almost dead.
After listening to the call, it's clear how critical the situation was. Kyle's attempts to convey his location and the urgency of his plight were met with delays and confusion. The dispatcher struggled to fully understand the gravity of Kyle's situation, which led to a slow response. Kyle's father's call further highlighted the desperation and confusion surrounding the case. The lack of immediate and effective action in response to these calls had tragic consequences. Kyle's final moments were spent trapped in the minivan, struggling for breath and unable to free himself. Despite the efforts of the 911 dispatchers, the delay in understanding and responding to the emergency led to a heartbreaking outcome. In the aftermath of this tragic incident, there was a significant examination of the 911 dispatch system and emergency response protocols. Kyle Plush's case brought to light critical issues in how emergencies are handled, emphasizing the need for clear and prompt communication in life-threatening situations. The Spirit Family Massacre is a chilling and tragic chapter in the annals of American crime, illustrating the horrifying consequences of domestic violence and family tragedy. The Spirit family, comprising the parents, Dawn and Susan, and their two young children, Emily and James, seemed like a typical close-knit family living a quiet life. However, beneath the veneer of normalcy lay a dark and turbulent reality. Dawn's spirit, who had been battling personal demons and financial troubles, had grown increasingly unstable and desperate. That fateful evening, the tensions within the Spirit household reached a catastrophic peak. Dawn, driven by a combination of financial despair and emotional turmoil, made the decision to end his family's lives. The events that unfolded were both horrific and brutal. At around 9 p.m., Dawn called 911. The call he made would become one of the most disturbing and heartbreaking recordings in the history of emergency response. Dawn's voice, calm and detached, revealed nothing of the violence that had already transpired in his home. Instead, his call was marked by a chilling nonchalance as he described a situation that was anything but ordinary. When the dispatcher answered, Dawn claimed that there had been an incident involving a firearm. His voice was eerily composed as he mentioned the need for medical assistance. He provided a vague description of the situation, avoiding any specifics about the extent of the violence or the condition of his family members. The dispatcher, trying to maintain control of the call, asked for more details and clarified the nature of the emergency. Throughout the call, Dawn's responses were disjointed and unsettling. He spoke with an unnerving calmness, providing fragmented information about the situation. The dispatcher struggled to piece together the severity of the emergency, as Dawn's demeanor suggested a disturbing detachment from the gravity of the situation. As the call progressed, the dispatcher attempted to keep Dawn engaged, asking him to provide more details and to remain on the line. The conversation was fraught with tension. The dispatcher's attempts to elicit more information were met with Dawn's cryptic and unsettling responses. The following audio call captures the disturbing and unsettling moments of Dawn Spirit's 911 call.
Gilchrist County 911, what's the address of the emergency?
Yes, ma'am. I just shot my daughter and shot all my grandkids, and I'll be sitting on my step And when you get here, I'm going to shoot myself.
What is the address that you're at, sir?
2550 Northwest, 25 Terrace, downstairs. Every one of them are dead.
You said your name is Dawn Spirit?
Yep.
All right, Dawn, what kind of gun do you have?
It doesn't matter what kind of gun I got. They're all dead, and then when you get here, I'll shoot myself, and then you figure out what kind of gun it is.
How long ago this happened, Dawn?
I don't want to hear it, man. I'm done with every fucking thing. Just bring the motherfuckers out here, that's all. You got all the kids are dead in the house.
Okay, how many people? Okay, how many people?
6 kids, 1 adult.
6 kids and 1 adult?
Yeah. One of them is a baby.
All right, Dawn, is there any way you can stay on the phone with me till I get somebody there to help you?
What's that?
Can I have you stay on the phone with me?
No, not that. I'm waiting for them to get here. When they get here, I'm going to shoot myself on my back step. All I'm doing is waiting for them.
So you're sitting on your back steps?
Yep.
Okay, Dawn.
In the aftermath of the call, law enforcement arrived at the Spirit family home to find a scene of utter devastation. Dawn had carried out his plan with horrifying precision, ending the lives of his wife and children before taking his own life. The scene that greeted the officers was a stark and tragic testament to the family's unimaginable suffering. The Spirit family massacre became a somber reminder of the dangers posed by untreated mental illness and the potential for domestic violence to spiral into tragic outcomes. The investigation that followed revealed the depth of Dawn's despair and the tragic circumstances that led to the massacre. The story of the weepy-voiced killer is a disturbing and tragic tale that delves into the dark corners of criminal psychology and the horrors of murder. Paul Michael Stephanie, infamously known by this moniker, was a serial killer whose crimes shocked the Twin Cities area in the early 1980s. His nickname, the weepy-voiced killer, was derived from the emotional and often tearful nature of his 911 calls, which added a chilling layer of psychological complexity to his heinous acts. The sequence of events that led to Stephanie's notoriety began on August 21st, 1980. On this day, Stephanie made his first 911 call, a disturbing plea for help that would set the stage for his subsequent crimes. The call was characterized by a disoriented and tearful tone, reflecting a deep sense of remorse or psychological torment. Stephanie, in a moment of bizarre candor, confessed to the dispatcher that he had just murdered a woman. His voice, trembling and filled with anguish, painted a chilling picture of a man who seemed to be grappling with his own guilt, or perhaps his own twisted sense of reality. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that this initial call was not an isolated incident. Over the next several months, Stephanie went on to commit a series of brutal murders in the Twin Cities area. His victims were predominantly young women whom he abducted, tortured, and killed. The pattern of his crimes displayed a disturbing level of premeditation and cruelty, yet each time, his emotional turmoil was evident in the subsequent 911 calls he made. One of the most unsettling aspects of Stephanie's calls was the way he would frequently contact emergency services after committing his crimes. On September 6, 1980, he made another 911 call, again drenched in tears and guilt, reporting yet another murder. His sobbing voice conveyed an unsettling mix of remorse and detachment, leaving the dispatcher and investigators grappling with the nature of his emotional state and the severity of his crimes. During these calls, Stephanie provided incoherent and fragmented details about his crimes, often struggling to articulate his thoughts while weeping uncontrollably. His emotional distress during these calls contrasted sharply with the horrific nature of his actions. The calls were filled with disturbing admissions and unsettling contradictions, revealing a deeply troubled individual whose remorse seemed almost as pathological as his violent tendencies. On January 6, 1981, Stephanie made yet another 911 call, which proved to be a critical turning point in his capture. In this call, he again confessed to murdering a woman and described the crime in harrowing detail. The dispatcher's efforts to calm him and gather information were met with a mixture of frantic and remorseful statements from Stephanie. The call was marked by a chilling and eerie tone, as Stephanie's sobs intertwined with his admissions of guilt. The following audio call captures the disturbing and haunting moments of Paul Michael Stephanie's 911 calls. Listen closely to the raw and emotional state of his voice as he confesses to his horrific crimes.
Don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it. Don't know why I had to stab her. I am so upset about it. I keep getting drunk every night. I can't believe it. It's just like a big dream. I can't think of being locked up. If I get locked up, I'll kill myself. I'd rather kill myself than get locked up. I'll try not to kill anybody else.
Fire emergency.
Please don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry I killed that girl. I stabbed her 40 times. Kimberly Compton was the first one. Overseas. I don't know what's the matter with me. I'm sick. I'm going to kill myself, I think.
Where are you?
I'm just going to... If somebody dies with a red shirt on, it's me. I killed both of you. I'm sorry. I'll never make it to heaven. Oh, you find me? I just stabbed somebody with an ice pick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody. Yes, please. This is an emergency. Please send a squad to Pierce Butler Road, Molenberg Manufacturing Company, machine shop. Please, there's an ambulance too. There's a girl hurt there.
Can you tell me what happened to her?
Just hurry. She's laying on the ground in the back by the railroad tracks, by the edge. Hurry.
What's the address?
I don't know.
Who are you?
Stephanie's calls were a stark and unsettling aspect of his criminal activity, providing an insight into the mind of a murderer who was simultaneously deeply remorseful and utterly detached from his actions. The emotional conflict displayed in these calls added a layer of complexity to the investigation and highlighted the disturbing nature of his crimes. The investigation eventually led to Stephanie's arrest and conviction. He was found guilty of multiple counts of murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. His case remains a haunting example of the intersection between psychological disturbance and violent criminal behavior. Thank you for joining us as we explored these haunting and tragic 911 calls. Each story is a stark reminder of the fragility of life and the critical importance of timely and effective emergency response. These calls not only capture moments of extreme distress, but also highlight the need for continual improvements in how we handle and respond to emergencies. They underscore the profound impact of both swift action and the devastating consequences of delays. If you found this video compelling, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing for more in-depth explorations of real-life stories. And as always, we encourage you to share your thoughts and comments below. Stay safe and take care.